Hello and welcome to the Linebreak Monday podcast. I'm your host Sav, and today it's just me and Ed chatting about stuff. Hopefully,
And it's
Lions.
Friday.
And it's Friday. Shh, don't tell them. Yeah, and it's Friday. We went.
It's not gone well.
We had a bit of radio silence for a while.
Yeah, what's up with that? I don't think it's. I'm sure there's part of me to blame, but I don't think it's just my fault. Everyone seems to be kind of.
I just had a lot on my plate with family and things, so I was just kind of.
Alex has been gone a while, hasn't he?
Alex has as well.
Is he buried in work?
Alex has genuine full-time employment now, so
Oh, what a bastard!
It's. I think it's getting harder and harder for him to join in.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I mean, let's have that conversation that you just brought up.
Yeah. Well, actually, I was gonna veer off in a second. But I suppose it's relevant. But Tom Curry is actually this would have been okay. I'm already going on a tangent. Tom Curry is about to become the youngest debutant for England since Johnny Wilkinson back in '98. And I just had the thought that, well, first I was going to ask who was better of the two, Tom or Ben. And was hoping for an answer.
I mean, I'm not. I'm actually not 100% sure. I thought when you talked about twins, I thought you were talking about Rico and Akira, but they're not twins. They're brothers, aren't they?
And then I was going to get to the point that I kind of wish they were both getting capped on the same day.
That would be quite epic.
Just because I just think, if there's got to be only a matter of minutes between their age. It would have been quite an entertaining.
Imagine.
Or you could have had them both on the bench and subbed them on one after the other.
Yeah, a minute later, just to do the whole twin thing where he gets a minute before and the other one. Yeah. That'd have been hilarious. I think Eddie Jones should have done that just for the band.
I think one of them's injured, in fairness, but
Yeah.
What could have been next time there are twins.
Next time there are two twins. So we should really talk about the Blues.
We should.
The Blues beating Lions.
Who saw that coming then? Honestly, Jesus.
I'll be honest. I think I kind of saw it coming. I think quite a lot of people were a bit disheartened by the New Zealand Barbarian game.
Yeah, that was
provincial Barbarian game, even
not the best. I do think it's. Yeah. I mean, I'm not quite sure. I'm still not sure where I landed on it with regards to opinions. I mean, I should probably watch the highlights at some point, and I do need to read up on what Sim's written about it. Because whereas with the provincial Barbars game, there were, I think it was 4 times in the first half where we got over the line, but ref said held up and didn't go to TMO.
Yeah, we were.
And I just wonder I do kind of wonder how much of an effect it could have had on, I suppose, the Lions in general, or just us as spectators, if one or more of those tries had been given.
Well,
if
we were coming into this third game with 3 or 4 tries, we'd be a little bit, we'd be okay. I wouldn't say we'd be good because we should have still scored. Yeah. I think we should have scored 2 tries a game, really. I think we should be on 4 or 5 tries.
Because it's Crusaders are the best team in Super Rugby, is that right?
I mean, they're unbeaten in
potentially,
17 games, maybe something like that.
I think, in fact, 14. I read that earlier on.
14.
Okay. So they're the best team this season. Our Lions in 2 games in 160 minutes have scored 2 tries.
Yeah.
Which is appalling, and I know that. It's also difficult to where to draw the line with regards to excuses. I mean, I think jet lag is, you can't really still be pushing that. But I think there is the point to be made that certainly with a lot of the players who were in finals in the last couple of weeks, they haven't had enough time together. And I think that if they were afforded, at least an extra week as a group together, they could have at least been a bit more cohesive. They could have
I always bring it back. I always bring it back to my thoughts on Ollie Barkley. You remember Ollie Barkley?
Vaguely.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was very much a bit player for England, but he played for England and he was okay.
He was a Quinn, wasn't he?
But he was playing a lot of rugby. He was playing international rugby. He was playing club rugby quite a lot.
Yeah.
As you do. And then he got injured, and he spent a long time out. He then came back and had some really, really good games for Bath, and he played really, really well. And he obviously he's made his career. He's moved on. He never came back to England, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
But he came back a lot better. And that long period out where he got a rest, to me, was like a godsend to him. I felt like it was a godsend because he needed that rest time.
Yeah, he got a proper chance to recuperate rather than.
Yeah, and he took his time. He did it right, and he came back gym strong, and he looked good. I'm not saying he was an amazing player afterwards, but he was a lot better.
Yeah,
and a lot bigger.
And
I think there's a bit of that with the Lions. They haven't had that rest. They've
absolutely. I mean, the first player I could pick out is I'm pretty sure. When was the last time you suppose Dan Cole got a day off?
Oh no, he only plays 60 minutes. Come on.
Well,
but no, you're right.
Well, no, that's fair. Sink has been getting a few more, a bit of a longer stretch, hasn't he? But
you're
still
right. Dan Cole doesn't get.
I can't remember the last time Dan Cole didn't play a game.
And he played in the semi as well, didn't he? So it's not like he wasn't involved in the final playoff sort of situation.
And so, considering that granted, there is an off season.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that long, but I mean, if you think about the fact that he can't have had that much of a break since before the last Lions tour. I mean, granted, that is, there will have been, those blocks, around July, August, where they're no longer playing abroad.
When did they tour? They toured Australia, but that wasn't in the summer.
Wait, when? What, England?
2016.
Yeah, there was June 2016.
Yeah, so I mean, well, there you go. I mean,
so come home for July
he hasn't had a rest for a long time, then, has he?
Because it is pre-season all of August, or no, all of September rather.
I think August. To be honest, it doesn't sound like he would have ever stopped. I mean, I bet he's got 3 weeks break in there at least. I think that will exist, but
potentially not
three
enough.
Weeks is not really for someone whose metabolism and their body is being conditioned constantly to be at the very front row of a game and to be smashing and taking a lot of hits.
And I'm sure for Tigers he is playing more than 60.
Very, very possibly. We'd have to bring someone on that was more of a Leicester fan than I am to know that. Anyway, now that we've moved on to the Premiership, let's ignore the Lions forever. Just talk about Exeter non-stop and the fact
they were
they are
so good.
The champions.
I was so happy. Okay, you know what? I really wish. I wish we had opened up Skype for that game. Was it that game or the semi-final? No, it was the final.
Just yelling. I was yelling things.
Were you actually Did you actually turn off the final, or was it? Yeah, because I ended up through Slack just describing everything that was happening to you.
Yeah, because you were sending me messages because
so you turned off.
My girlfriend was running a marathon, so I was supporting her do that.
Oh, so you weren't actually by a TV?
You were drip feeding me information. I was just over the moon.
Because
I was in bits.
I have no horse in that race. It was. I quite like Wasps. I quite like Exeter. I quite like players on both teams. I wasn't overly bothered by who wins, and there was. Was it the final or the semi-final where ball went out wide to Jack Noel? No, that must have been the final. Yeah, it was the semi-final. I kind of got disappointed that Saracens hadn't won because I seem to be an anomaly in English rugby in that I don't hate Saracens. And so I was quite disappointed when they lost the semi. But so come the final, there was a point where Jack Noel could have scored a try but didn't, and I got so excited in those few seconds. I realised they were who I wanted to win, and so despite the fact that there's so little standing in it for me as a Harlequins fan, the last actually going into extra time, I couldn't sit still. Everything was shaking a bit. My knee was going up and down, and I was, basically texting you everything that was happening to the final whistle, and it was absolutely fantastic.
And I was loving everything, and I was following on Twitter as much as I could. But yours was actually a quicker update than the Exeter Twitter feed.
Yeah.
And I remember I was standing in a crowd, and everyone's cheering the marathon runners because I was just there as a supporter. I wasn't running.
Yeah.
And I was cheering, and I wasn't cheering the marathon runners. I tell you, there were points when I think there was a point when you said that we didn't take the 3 points.
Yeah.
We went to the corner instead, and I saw it on Twitter, and I immediately tweeted, we should take the 3. I hadn't seen the game, but I knew what the time score was, and I understood that we needed those 3 points so that we could come back and then win the game later. And we didn't take the 3. And it did cost us in the end because we had to come back and score a try. We had to do that. Otherwise, we'd have lost completely.
And that was it? I'm trying to remember, because I've not watched highlights since, but was it a TMO decision at the end, or was it...
what with the maul?
Or did you get in front and then it was down to Wasps not being able to snatch the victory back? I can't remember. I'll have to watch it.
I can't even remember.
It was.
I just know it was extra time, and I was just over the moon. And then Steensom kicked the winning points.
Yeah, that game was well worth having BT on my phone.
100%.
Being able to stream the match. I
can see that.
It was so good.
Yeah.
Need more games like that. In fact, I tell you what, I so wish I'd watched all of the top 14 final for a similar feeling, because I was.
I've watched the replay of either, but I've read a lot about the top 14, and it looked and sounded fantastic.
Absolutely, because it was after the European final, where I was supporting Sarries against Claremont. In fact, I think we might have mentioned it on the pod we did after that match, that it was kind of heartbreaking to see all of the Claremont fans in the stands and in the streets in France just crestfallen and heartbroken over their team having lost again. And so while I didn't watch the entire top 14 final, I was watching it in like 5-minute chunks every now and again. And I've not really, since Johnny Wilkinson left Toulon, I haven't cared that much about the team. And so I was very much a neutral again, without a horse in that particular race.
Yeah, for sure.
And it was, at the very end, it was Toulon were just rampaging up the pitch, and a try and a conversion would have won it for them, I think.
Yeah.
And then when Claremont won the penalty, and I think the clock had already gone red, I was slightly overcome. I felt it.
You emotionally tapped into that game, and
it was because I can't have watched more than 20 minutes total of the entire match.
But you were just.
But I saw one or two of the tries, and that last moment, seeing what it means to them, especially because I think that is their 20th top flight final, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only their fourth.
They keep on coming win. Second, don't they?
And so I can't even articulate what I think that must feel like for those fans, and especially those players, to be at that level.
Obviously you were feeding me for the final itself. That semi-final moment, I was watching every single moment of that semi-final, and I've spoke about this before, but my parents got tickets to the final immediately.
Yeah, I remember that.
As soon as the semi-final finished and we won that game, my dad popped up on Facebook and went, "I've got tickets. Do you want to come?" and I thought I was going, and then I realised that I couldn't go, obviously, and I was
say no.
I was at the marathon. But that semi-final moment when Slade just went, "I'm going to kick the ball, I'm just going to absolutely ping it 60 yards into that corner, and then we're going to win the maul and score a try."
He properly stepped up.
It was phenomenal. Oh my God. And I've written an essay. I've written 4 or 5 pages. I think I could turn it into a novel, to be honest, about Exeter's rise.
Is that the thing I started reading? Is that the thing I read some of?
That is the thing you read some of, yes. Okay. It is a chunk, and I'm going to advertise it as a novel because it is. It's a big. It's going to be populated with some GIFs and maybe some pictures.
Did you expand any on what I mentioned with regards to Exeter players for England and Noel being the first for the Lions, or?
I haven't actually. No,
you've got to make it longer then.
The problem is that people, and I've shared it with a couple of people, and they're giving me feedback on how I should perhaps change things and do. If I did every single bit on Exeter, I think I could just write Exeter the book at this point, because I had an hour at work where I'd finished and I needed to be at work for
How many
hour.
words is it?
So I literally just sat on a word and literally wrote 4 pages in an hour.
Oh, that's a fair bit. How many words is that roughly then? About what, 2,000 words if it's roughly 500 words a page?
I've got it up now. Let's have a look. It's 2,300 words at the moment.
Shit, that's a fair chunk. Because I kind of lost that. And I'm sure we've mentioned it on the pod before. I've spoken to you guys about it. In that before matches, I'd throw up the match thread in the morning before the Six Nations or the Autumn Internationals or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I just sit in front of the computer and just type away for about 20 minutes or 30 minutes. And then I think one day before England versus Ireland, I spent an hour and wrote 1,600 words just because it fell out of me. And I've never in the last 2 or 3 years, however long it's been, I've not been able to get into that. But being able to tap into that passion to just write about what you love and know is... So yeah, if the words are there, put them down, and if not, then finish.
You're spot on there. It's the passion and something that you really love and know about and you want to talk about it. That is what's driving what I'm writing at the moment, and I'm really happy that I'm able to do that.
Was it so? Yeah, but it's just, I suppose, being as an Exeter fan, it must be something else. Just considering the fact that, they're not the first team to do it, but.
No.
Northampton Harlequins, they've been promoted and then a few years later won the Premiership rather.
Yeah.
And so that pedigree is about, but it must be very special.
I think it's the way it's been done. I'm interested to look at the. I'm not a psychologist, but I am interested in the psychology behind what Baxter has done at that rugby club.
Yeah, the real test, of course, is what happens next season.
Yep, they want to be the best in Europe, and I've signed the novel.
How did you guys do in the Champions Cup?
Knocked out.
You didn't make it out the pools.
We beat the Bordeaux Beagles, but we didn't.
Begler, I think, is the correct.
Anyway, we were knocked out. We didn't do so well. I think we didn't get the group of death, but we did get a hard group. But then every group's a hard group, really, in the Champions Cup.
I got to say, I found it. I suppose it could be worth touching on the pools of the Champions Cup for the next season, because I find it just absolutely hilarious that Harlequins have managed to find their way into the Champions Cup in place of Northampton Saints. But I wanted to kind of segue very briefly into, because it's been a couple of weeks, I don't think we podded after it. I was at Twickenham for the Barbarian England's game, the day before the final, the day after the final. The day after the final. I was wondering what you thought about if you watched it.
Because
I was wondering what you thought of the match if you watched it. England Barbarians.
The England Barbarian game. I've watched highlights, which is obviously not a very good way to experience the thing. But Nathan Earl stood out as an absolute tearaway coming through the ranks.
He was decent, but it was over the last couple of years, it's particularly as I'm sure I could probably nail a fairly accurate point at which my kind of passion for rugby started to go up and up and up exponentially. Mm-hmm. But when I think about, and Barbarians, they were one of the first teams I ever saw play live. They were one of the first teams I went to see when, Mum or Dad got tickets and we went to the stadium or whatever. And I remember specifically the first time I saw them was after, it was 2008, it was after South Africa, or might have been the very end of 2007. Mm-hmm. But it was after South Africa won the World Cup. We had a screaming set of fans behind us who, at the time, I got really annoyed by, but in retrospect, were actually just having a ball, and I should have joined in with them. But I've been following. I've loved the Barbarians for a long time, and then if you go back a few years when you had, in 2014, their game against Australia was one of the most fun matches I've ever watched, and I think I came back home from the hospital after surgery. I can't remember which surgery, but that might have just been having half of my toenail removed, but they wouldn't let me leave the hospital. Okay, fine. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting way beyond. Point is, that match, 2014.
I just realised. So
I'm doing so much talking.
And then I realised,
bad.
We're talking about England, talking about barbarians, and then it was just
I'll move on quickly.
Suddenly, Ed's just talking about.
Cut all this out, please. Get post-production Sav and cut it all out. It sounds awful.
No,
please.
Sorry, he's busy today. He's just going to be uploading this straight. This is going to be pure and simple.
No, okay, fine. I'll get 2014 Australia Barbarians, one of the most fun games I've ever had the pleasure of watching. It was a monumentally fun game, amazing. The year after the World Cup, Barbarians played Argentina, and it was a similar game. You had end-to-end stuff, try. It was beautiful. And then last year you had Barbarians against Fiji, which was decent, and you had Barbarians against South Africa at Wembley, which was, again, lots of incredible tries, ended in a draw, which is so spectacularly rare in our sport. And then the game they played against England 2 weeks ago was absolute shit. And it was so disappointing to see that kind of game unfold. Seeing Ford choose to kick for the posts again and again and again. And it was just, I get that Eddie Jones has said before that he doesn't want to hand out confetti caps.
Yeah,
I think he called them, and he probably wants to play every match like a test match.
100%.
But the entire game felt so perverse with regards to the tradition of the Barbarians, and it just, after the match that was the final the day before, that was just so spectacular, that the Barbars game felt like such. I mean, it was great to be there and to be with the crowd and watch it, but the amount of Mexican waves going around Twickenham got tiresome. And it was we had decent seats and we had a great view for a couple of the nearly tries and the tries, but
Ed's getting grumpy.
Yeah, you should move me on to something different. Also, you should do more talking. I feel like I'm doing too much talking.
Well, I was just letting you go.
Yeah.
I feel like you were just running with it.
Here's the thing.
About the Lions. We can talk about the Barbarians. So we both love the Barbarians.
The point I just made about how I'm having trouble actually articulating my thoughts
we could talk
as
about
typing them up.
Forever.
I find when I get going speaking, it comes rather easily. So maybe that says something about me. Move on to something else and make sure post-production you delete all that.
Let's talk about the combinations in the new Lions team that's been announced. And I also want to mention just quickly that you mentioned brothers earlier. Which one's the better brother?
Yeah.
I'd like to come out on record right now and say I think Rieko Ioane will. He's been picked in the New Zealand squad, hasn't he?
Possibly.
I'm pretty sure he has. Anyway, I think that he will have a very good All Black career. I think he's a genuine, raw talent that New Zealand will want to play.
Both of them had a really good game for the Blues.
Mm-hmm. I just think Akira Ioane is a good option to be. He's a long-term option, but so is Rieko, to be fair. They're both really good long-term options.
Yeah.
And we could have a brothers team, to be honest. We could have Ardy, Akira, Julian, Rieko, and all the Barretts,
all the
just
Barretts.
Stuck on.
Get the Whitelocks in there.
It literally could be a team made up of 3 families.
Yeah.
Which is just fantastic.
Yeah, that just reminds me of Was it the Barrett Senior said that after his last match he was going to go away and make lots of All Blacks.
Which is brilliant.
Yeah.
But no, the Lions are in for a tough time.
Oh, absolutely.
I left a comment on Reddit saying, every time I see the team I think it's so strong and this is amazing, and then we watch them play
and it all goes to shit.
And it's all just so downhill. It looks like they can't even speak the same language. The attacking the line when there's an overlap doesn't seem to exist. I don't know whether that's Rob Howley or whether the boys are just not really clicked on and worked out what they're doing.
Howley has been getting a hell of a lot of shtick on the sub for.
He's been getting a lot of and I think the amount of time that they've been together, those are professional players.
There we go, found it.
Like there's going to be an attack plan, which I understand, but not attacking the line when there's an overlap is not Rob Howley. That's the players. And I can't defend Noel. Noel did not have a great game, apparently.
He wasn't the best. I think he got
a bit of a stinker.
I think people were overly harsh on him, but yeah, certainly by his standards, certainly going by the Premiership semi and final,
which he had blinders,
yeah. So I think he's probably just completely spent.
Yeah, and I mean he was very, very drunk after the final and had to get a helicopter or a
he got
something.
What was it, like a £450 taxi or something?
Yeah, he had to get a very expensive taxi to get to the
what
plane.
Position? Oh yeah, there we go. Akira Ioane is am I pronouncing that correctly?
He's an 8/6/.
Yeah. Rico is listed as an outside back. Akira is listed as injury cover.
Oh, okay. So he's injury cover. So yeah, but I think Rico's the better. So that makes sense. I think Rico's the better brother.
Yeah.
And I think he will establish himself actually quite long term.
I think
Noel is no. Noel had a bad game, but Rico going round Noel like that doesn't happen very often.
I think it's one of the brothers. I think should have picked up man of the match. I'm not entirely sure who got it. But I thought
probably a Higher West for that amazing run, right? At the end of the day.
Fair shout. That try was so good. Do you know what's painful about
West? Do you know I actually quite like West as a player, but
yeah,
every time you watch him play Super Rugby, he's not very good.
Oh really?
He's like the 5th or 6th best fly half in New Zealand.
Well, I mean, I suppose you could put that down to just this is something that none of the are. Maybe with 1 or 2 exceptions, and it would only be 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose if the contracts get rewritten, that could change. But the point is, in 12 years' time, if the Lions are back in New Zealand, none of the players they're playing at the moment will have a chance again to play this team, to play the Lions. So that the kind of the increased sense of occasion that these matches are must lift a lot of the players, because Sim was telling me that Bryn Gatland is just generally a bit shit. But I thought playing for the Provincial Barbarians, he had an absolute blinder.
Yeah, and people were saying that he should be picked to then play for the Blues.
Yeah.
Which was crazy, but it was an option because he played so well against the Lions. Everybody for New Zealand seems to have stepped up. In club level, obviously, they've all stepped up, and they're really taking the Lions to task. There are no runaway provincial games like Hogg could not play 10 on this tour. Do you know what I mean?
No. But it makes it's so exciting. I think there was a thread earlier on today saying, how much do you care about the Lions, with a fairly wide spread from like 2 or 3 out of 10 to 8 or 9 out of 10. And I'm not sure where exactly I come on that threshold, but it is because this is technically this is only my second Lions tour as a spectator, because 2009 happened and I had absolutely no idea.
You weren't engaged in 2009, no?
Not really. So, I mean, and I suppose 2013 actually going to Oz for some of the matches was possibly the best kicking off point I could have had, because I got to experience.
When was Matt Dawson?
A while ago. Because he definitely retired before.
The Matt Dawson South Africa was my first taste of the Lions.
Oh God, that was in '97, wasn't it?
That was my first. My first game watching, I went with my dad to watch France v England in the '90s. I think we decided.
It's when in the '90s. I'm curious.
When was it at Twickenham, England v France?
I suppose if it's Six Nations, you've got me beat. My first match was England Fiji at Twickenham in the '99 World Cup.
Okay. I don't know. I just remember that my dad said that we would never get these tickets again because we were too high up.
Oh, really?
We were like up. We were up in the gods.
Up in the nosebleeds.
Yeah, he was like, we're watching ants play rugby, and I was a young boy who quite enjoyed rugby and football at that time, and he was trying to get me into the rugby side, and it's worked, I suppose, because I love the game
quite well.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my first. But yeah, no, Matt Dawson. I just remember Dawson throwing that dummy against the South African forwards, and nobody wanted to tackle him, and he just kept running. And that.
Yeah, how about that? That is, that's a tour 20 years ago. That's quite something.
Wow.
Lions won that tour, didn't they? Was that the last one they won before 2013?
That wasn't 20. Was that 20 years ago?
Yeah. Unless I...
97?
Yeah, 97. I was 7 years old. It was 20 years ago.
6. Yeah, I was 6 years old.
That's not bad.
I was 6 years old. Jesus. I think I must have gone to France-England in like 98 or something then. It can't have been...
Yeah.
It can't have been that long after. But no, I do remember. That's all I remember, to be honest. And I remember looking at Dawson and thinking he was tiny compared to everyone else. I didn't really know rugby. Obviously, as a 6-year-old, you don't have a clue what's going on. But I just remember him being tiny compared to everyone else.
It means they stand out, which is...
I was like, look at this tiny man versus all these normal-sized humans. Because when you were young, you just think, oh, that's what a person looks like on TV. And then there's this weird tiny man playing.
Yeah. So you see, it's the Dawsons, it's the Williams, it's the Robinsons, it's... Yeah. They stand out because they,
It's true. It's the... Well, who's the... I suppose Cruden's quite small, isn't he? For New Zealand.
The halfbacks are still pretty small.
There's no really short. Like Flutie was quite short.
What I think it's quite entertaining. The scrum half still, they own that. They own the lack of height, but it was always quite. I found it quite funny that it's changed a bit recently. But I suppose if you go back a year or two, if you looked at the Welsh back line, you had everyone from 9, Mike Phillips at scrum half, to George North or Alex Cuthbert at 14, whichever wing either played on, at 6'3" or 6'4". That Lee Halfpenny at like 5'10" was the shortest back.
And then obviously going further, it's Shane Williams is even smaller. It's true because Mike Phillips has been big. He's a tall.
I think he's 6'1" or 6'2".
Yeah, and Conor Murray's not small. He's not like huge, but.
I hope he goes well on there. I really hope Conor Murray has a decent game.
So just to bring it back to Lions versus the All Blacks.
Okay.
I'd just like to also say the Crusaders have a fantastic team, and they're probably going to beat the Lions, to be honest, tomorrow.
Yep, be amazing. I can't wait.
It's going to be a great game, though. Yeah, like we said, we're Lions fans, but we don't care. Like it's just going to be a great game. I'm just hyped for it. My friends, they're sending me messages that let's go to the pub at 8 o'clock or whatever and sit there and have a bacon sandwich and watch the fresh orange juice, and we'll watch the Lions game. So I might go to that tomorrow.
That does sound. Tomorrow is going to be just an absolutely mental day, because again, there is a lot going on. There's depending on when I want to wake up, 6 a.m. is Australia versus Fiji. 40 minutes after that kicks off is Japan playing Romania. Lions play the Crusaders at 8:30.
I'll get my cherry blossoms top out for that one.
I'm so jealous you have that. And then the rest of the day, I'm trying to think. France are playing South Africa at, I think, about 4 o'clock. Maybe 8 o'clock. No, yeah, about 4 o'clock.
France, South Africa?
Yeah. That's where they're touring.
That's actually a way more interesting game than it's going to get given credit for.
Probably.
Because if South Africa lose, then I genuinely think they're turning into a lower level team, because France are not particularly good right now.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. We play Argentina at 8 o'clock, thankfully on the BBC. Scotland play Italy in Singapore.
Of
that's
course.
happening
Finn
about
Russell's just round the corner, so if
midday.
If Bigger's knocked out permanently, Finn Russell's in.
I thought Bigger did really quite well on Saturday. Not Saturday, Wednesday.
But he got knocked for 6. So
and then at 10 o'clock, I'm really annoyed because there are finally 2 matches that clash. Georgia are playing Canada and Ireland are playing the USA.
Huh.
So there, it is one of it's so close. It was nearly. If it had been a day earlier, that would have been the best. But yeah, that's a lot of Test rugby to fill out one day, and I can't wait. Because it should be like that for the next 3 weeks.
8 o'clock in the evening's the one, though. That's the one.
Yeah, that should be. But we're not going to talk about that
8 in the morning and 8 in the evening. I'm probably going to be busy in between that. But
why are you going to be busy on a Saturday? Just put your feet up and watch all the rugby.
You don't want to be too sloth-like. When you're sloth-like on a Friday...
No, I'll be... fair enough. I've been out volunteering this morning.
That's true. You have been. You've been
so
busy.
I've been out and about, and Sunday I'm going to catch up with my cousin. Doing... I don't know what we'll do, but whatever. And so, yeah, tomorrow I am perfectly fine to just absolutely veg out in front of the TV and watch as much rugby as is possible to watch in 24 hours. When's the under-20s on?
I never ever want to do again after I mention it.
Wait, say again?
And let's talk about how I don't actually think the ref has been that good for the Blues game or the
it was shite.
Barbarian game.
I think they were both
I don't
awful.
actually like attacking the refs. This is something that I actually really, really despise.
I do it far more often than I should.
But there
and I'm aware I shouldn't.
So many calls that I was just like, no, that's not really what we...
There was actually, I mean, you say that, there was... I've seen quite a few people... I've seen a couple of Kiwi fans saying he was terrible at the breakdown, but there was an article I saw, I think, by the Telegraph. Online, they listed the 13 penalties we had against us.
Yeah.
And what they were, could they be avoided, whose fault was it?
I think that was a Charlie Morgan piece, but yeah.
Yeah, because I think I thought the laws got pinged at the line out, and from what I saw, I thought it was completely crap because he was going for the ball. But on the view the ref had, it did look like Laws is just swamping the other jumper.
Yeah.
Liam Williams is just a massive, massive twat. Because I get that I'm fully aware that my views on going for the high ball generally are on the side that, you know, if someone's getting a yellow card, it's more likely than not unfair. But what he did going up twice against the same player and twice taking him out, I think was a bit ropey.
My issues with the reffing weren't surrounding...
No, that's not an issue with the ref, that's an issue with Williams.
Yeah, I wasn't... my issues with the ref in that particular sense. I think I was focusing quite a lot on the provincial Barbarian game. The Liam Williams jumping thing, I wasn't a huge issue with that. Look, I do think Matt Duffy... It was Duffy, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
He overjumped. He jumped well and contested well and did everything right. He's allowed to do it.
Yeah.
And Liam Williams just the contest in the air was quite an aggressive one from him.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I was happy with what the ref did. He controlled the situation. There was no injury in the end, and it was not meant to happen again. But then it did happen again. So that's just the way it is. I wasn't worried about that part of him dealing with that part. In fact, I'd forgotten that part had happened.
I can't really remember any of the decisions in the Barbars game at the moment.
Jog my memory. There was one where in the mall, their player was literally lifting...
Oh, yeah, lift up Itoje, or was it Itoje he lifted up by the leg?
Laws or someone
lifted him up so much that his other leg left the ground.
And it was the middle of a mall, and I was thinking to myself, if that was a tackle, it's illegal.
Yeah.
You're not even allowed to lift the leg in a mall, so I didn't understand how the ref couldn't see that. And there were several things where a player from the Barbarians, when they were doing scramble defence, to counter ruck and get the turnover, the Barbarian would come in from the side.
Yeah.
And the hands would be kind of over the ball, and then they'd run in directly from the side and then hook the ball back. And I was just thinking to myself, no, that's completely illegal. He's in from the side. You can't do that. And the ref's kind of like, oh, it's turnover. Let's go. And
I do, in fact, having said what I just said about not remembering any of them, I do think it is slightly peculiar to not check any of the held-up tries. I mean, maybe he did actually just have a perfect view of what was happening, but I can't remember seeing a single replay of what, you know, is a perfectly contestable position that 100%. Could have swung 5 points or whatever.
Sometimes for held up tries, TMO doesn't help because all the angles are blocked and there's just a pile up.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just have to do it, and like if it's not seen, it's not seen. And I get that they didn't want to slow the game down. That's another thing. I feel like the ref in the Barbarian game was very much on the side, not on the side of New Zealand, but it suited their style of play. I'm not saying the ref was biased particularly, but it suited their style of play that he liked it fast.
Yeah.
And the lack of stopping the game for penalties and the amount of advantage in certain areas that he gave let the game flow a lot, which is good, but it's not necessarily useful all the time.
It was Gardner, wasn't it, with the slide?
It was Gardner with the slide. You're right.
How good was that covering tackle from Faletau?
Yeah, the Faletau tackle.
I think that was probably the standout moment from that match.
Yeah, because it wasn't.
Not the slide. I do mean the actual tackle. That was
the tackle
absolutely
itself.
superb.
And Watson scored a try that wasn't any better, you know.
Conversely, standout match from the Blues match was definitely the try.
Obviously, Sonny Bill Williams offload into Higher West and going off. Luatua's offload before that even.
That offload from Sonny Bill Williams to West was just inch perfect in everything about its execution. From the moment it left Sonny Bill's hands to just the sheer pace that West was going leading onto it, because it meant that by the time he'd caught the ball, the 3 or 4 players who were in a position to tackle him were already disadvantaged by the fact that...
Way behind him. He blazed past them, hadn't he?
That was such
and I think, for
an
me,
extraordinary bit of skill.
And I've been backing... I think Sonny Bill Williams was going to start anyway for the All Blacks.
Yeah. I hope he does. I think he's...
I think he was going to anyway.
Was it... it must have been for the Ireland tour in 2012. I can't remember whether it was Cruden offload to Sonny Bill Williams or Sonny Bill Williams offload to Cruden. But the commentator going absolutely bonkers, yelling about the Chiefs connection as 10 yards behind the line. One of them gets tackled and the ball just hovers in the air for the perfect delivery to be run onto for the try. And I know he's hopped about each code, and that, people have called him a mercenary, but he is so incredibly, just as a player, so naturally gifted.
Yeah.
And he's so much fun to watch. And so if he can walk back into the All Blacks team, into the starting 15, then more power to him, because I think he's a joy to watch. And if he is going to be tearing the Lions to pieces 3 tests in a row, as long as it's fun to watch, I'm not going to mind.
And this is... I think he's going to be combining with...
is it Lineup Brown or... Yeah, that's...
100%. It's going to be an offload heaven for New Zealand. And as we've seen from the Lions, they cannot stop it. And it's not because the players are not good enough. It's because when you have to stop offloads, you need to be so defensively strong. Yeah. You need to know where everyone is. You need to know the skill set of every single player on the pitch, and you need to be working in such sync that you can cover it.
We're not particularly used to that style of play either, so we're already disadvantaged. I
think there's certain players there's certain teams that can.
Yeah, but not like he can. I think I will say this. I think a lot of us were. I think for the last few weeks we have been saying that we'll be lucky to win a test. I was rather hoping we'd do slightly better. I know it's only been 2 games, but I think our showing so far has been found a fair bit more wanting than I was expecting.
The bare minimum for me coming into this was a win against the Blues. Yeah. I wanted to win against the Blues because there needs to be a line in the sand where Southern Hemisphere fans are never going to fully understand that not all of them anyway, some of them will always understand, but not all of them will understand that this is a team that's just been put together at the end of a long season and they're not fully together. And we can make that excuse a million times, but it's still going to be true.
Yeah.
And they are good players regardless.
Yeah.
The issue being is that if they can't show up and beat the 5th team, is it the 5th team or the 4th team? The 5th team in New Zealand.
Then we're going to have such a serious problem.
I know they're the bottom. I'm just forgetting whether they're the 4th or 5th. But if they can't beat the worst team essentially in New Zealand, then there's just huge amounts of questions over the quality of Northern Hemisphere rugby.
Yeah.
The next issue being is that there's people like in Australia who are drawing comparisons and going, "Oh, and we thought Australian rugby was bad."
But
we've just smashed them in 2016 3-0, and the Aussies are suddenly getting cocky again.
4-0. 3 over there. I do think there is a certain amount of context that seems to just get completely ignored by some fans on both sides and over every issue. But especially, if you look, I suppose it is though very interesting if you compare. I suppose I would say that the squad that we have at the moment is probably a hair better than the squad of 2013. There are certain players
that's the impressive thing from New Zealand and Blues and Crusaders and all of them. They are fantastic, And this is still a very strong squad.
I'm thinking there are a couple of players playing, a couple of the 2013 players who I just would love in the current squad. And looking back, there are quite a lot of players in the current squad I think would have been amazing 4 years ago. But I think there was someone posted highlights in 2014 when England toured New Zealand. England beat the Crusaders up, I think 35-7 or 10 or something like that. It was a decent match, or 38 to that. That Foden try that I just will never stop loving. But the Crusaders have come on a long, long way. But the Lions are a lot more disjointed than the England team back then, despite how low down many of those players were in the pecking order. But back to the point, comparing the two Lions teams, Barbarians against the Lions 4 years ago was an absolute romp for the Lions in, was it Hong Kong?
I think it was Hong Kong.
And that
was like on the trip over, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then we played, what was it, New South Wales and Queensland combined country 15.
Yeah. Which
was, again, just an absolute drubbing.
Yeah.
And New Zealand are so far above that quality. So...
It's the depth and the lack of drop-off in the depth. Because you can have pure numbers, and I feel like England, in particular, have pure numbers. Like there is a lot of quality in the English setup, but they have pure numbers. Whereas New Zealand's, they have absolute numbers.
Yeah.
But there's 5 players who are world class in most Super Rugby teams.
Yeah.
World class. We're not talking international standard. We're talking world class. Like you would have a montage of that player on YouTube. Whereas in England, you don't have that many players.
You have the England team, and the Saxons team, but there aren't many.
But even
the
Saxons, the Saxons don't particularly. James Lowe, he's not been capped for the All Blacks. He will have countless montage videos, and montage videos don't make you a good player.
No, it's an odd metric to go by, but I suppose it is at least an indication that the talent and the
talent exists.
Yeah. It is quite extraordinary. I will say I know that the Blues are the worst of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm trying to remember the dates of when we play them, but I think there is the potential for us to. I don't think we'll win a Test match, and I'm not.
I really hope we do.
I know. I desperately hope we win a Test match, because I think just as fans we're kind of at a disadvantage when it comes against talking to the Kiwis, but there is just as a kind of any kind of victory for the Northern Hemisphere against the best team in the world, I think would be special. But I'm not particularly optimistic that the team has it to win a Test. Whereas I think we may still potentially win one of the tour games against one of the super sides. I'm not sure who it'll be, but I think as the team has more time to gel, as Gatland and the crew start to fine-tune the partnerships and whatever tactics it is they're working on in their back room, I think it may come down to a fact of just raw talent over coaching. I'm not sure. But I think
it could.
There is a danger,
because you'll notice that we do export, not always, because Rob Baxter, obviously the man, the myth, the legend, is extra through and through. But you do get Aaron Majors coming over, and you do get I forgot. Well, obviously Gatland's a Kiwi, but that's obviously not helping us that much.
Yeah.
And you get and obviously Nick Evans has come across, and now he's gone into the Quins coaching setup.
Blackadder came across, who I understand.
Blackadder came across, of course. So there are these strong Kiwi coaches that are coming around, and obviously Tano Umunga coaching the Blues. I mean, that's not a man who, Tui Pelotu didn't even get on, and he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Because he turned up to training late, so Tano Umunga went, "No, you're off. You're not playing."
So it's we've played 2 out of 10, 8 games left. I think there is a very real possibility we go 8 matches without winning.
Oh, don't! You're hurting me.
Again, I'm an eternal pessimist. I'm not very big. I can be big on optimism, but it's not.
You're killing me, Ed. You're killing me.
But I do think we are more than capable of winning at least 1 or 2 more of those games as the team becomes more of a team rather than because there is that kind of that criticism that these all-stars can't even beat our 5th best team, but all-stars who have been together for a week and a half. So it's that if you had, I mean, people keep saying it on the sub that if just England went over there, that would be something else entirely, because it is a team that has been now in its current iteration been, I suppose, with coach together for 18 months as a core of players for nearly 5 or 6 years, because the core is still very much a Lancaster core of players. And so, I mean, even if you took a side like, Saracens or even Exeter, if you fly them over there, if you give them time to get over the jet lag and to adapt, if you give them a week or two in the Auckland sunshine or rain to build up whatever it is to acclimatise and put them against some of the super sides, I think they would do well. If I don't know whether or not they would definitely win, but if you're going to put them, if you've got, what is it, the squad is 41 players? 41 players, 10 matches over 5 weeks. It's a big ask, and so there's going to be some naturally occurring resistance from the factors that you can't really go against without having the Premiership pull back their season by 2 weeks.
I think it is showing what a Lions tour does to players a little bit, because they're beaten and they're bruised, and I do love the Lions and respect to New Zealand. If this was in South Africa and Australia, as we said, this might not be as big as an issue as it is.
If this were, I mean, in the current state of Australian and South African rugby, the current Lions tour would be absolutely tearing shit up, I think. But it is just a testament to the sheer the level. I mean, there was that image that it was, I think it first showed up on Reddit, and I'm now seeing it on every rugby page I'm subscribed to on Facebook, of the world rankings, and the provincial sides have been put into the rankings as well, immediately beneath New Zealand and above everyone else. And I get that it's supposed to be a joke or under the guise of bants, but there is very much a level of truth in that, with just the level that these teams play at, that no one else can seem to touch.
Yeah.
But it's.
I'm gonna have to wrap up soon because I've got to shoot.
Going a while, are we?
Well, how long have we been? We've been about 50
I've
minutes.
been recording 53 and a half minutes, so it's not too bad. But yeah, so it's. But yeah, so I mean, it's again. I may come at this very doom and gloom. I may come off as just a very negative old bastard.
But we have the utmost respect for New Zealand and the province. And I suppose we will call them the provinces.
Yeah, that is
rugby teams.
Very much. That pessimism is very much tempered by a great deal of excitement for just all the matches to come, admiration for both sides that are playing,
and the skills on show have been all right. I'd say these 2 games haven't lit the world on fire.
No, not at all. Especially 2 tries on our part as opposed to the 5 tries we've conceded, 4 tries we've conceded.
I mean, there's been moments, obviously, with the Sonny Bill Williams Lua Tour and Ohio West where they've set the place on fire. And
that was a near perfect moment, though, wasn't it? So it's yeah. I just think what we need is a kind of. If you think, I mean, I'm trying to think of just pure moments.
Do you want me? I will now name the player who I think would change the tour.
For who?
For the Lions. I think if we brought this player instead of Greg Laidlaw, we would be in a lot better.
I'm intrigued.
Situation. I think if Ali Price had travelled.
Oh, no way. Okay.
I mean, that game that we played against the Barbarians, and then because Laidlaw came on against the Blues, didn't he? Second half?
I thought he played a lot better against the Blues than the Barbarians.
Yeah, but I just think against the Barbarians that Price's pace and the way he plays would have been more suited to how we wanted to play that game, or how the game got played anyway. However wanted to play was not how it got played.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people leaping to Laidlaw's defence over the Barbarians game, saying that we needed that stability, we needed that slowness at the time, and I think that's a bit of crap.
I don't think that Laidlaw's a bad player. I didn't want him to play that style of game. I would have rather we played.
We need the snap. We need the speed. We need someone to
push the tempo a little bit.
Yeah, someone to encourage that speed and to.
Well, it's all very well. Yeah, it's all very well having players on the pitch that can like Falatau, who can like make yards and make people go backwards. But if you take too long at the base of the ruck, those yards and the gaps that have just been created then disappear very, very quickly. So it's kind of pointless. You need to make the yards and then go. And not make the yards, have a look, box kick, chase. It's very structured. It can work against teams when you have the physical dominance. But we didn't have the complete dominance that we expected.
Yeah. But I'm not sure it's... I suppose I see where you're coming from with regard to price, but I think
I mean, you can disagree. It's an out there.
I think he might be a bit too green for this tour in particular. I mean, maybe if he had come, he would have completely switched on, and it would have been
against
the tour
the provincial barbarians, he's a good enough player because he is playing for Warriors, isn't he? He's a good enough player that he could have stood out against that level at the very least, I think.
Imagine if it was more than just British and Irish, because imagine Seren playing in that team, just kind of helping unlock some of the
and Pickamoles and Fofana.
Yeah, we went through this the other day, didn't we? When Fred was on
in the front row,
having Gerardo. And the seven.
I forgot his name.
Just
Gordon.
Twist the knife. I don't think I'm ever going to get over how bitter I am. That I know you said a couple of weeks ago that the Scots have a lot more right to be angry over the number of emissions, and
you're on about Launchpad.
I am never ever going to get over the fact that Laundry was left out.
Oh my god!
It upsets me to my very core.
It just looks he looks so puppy-like and so sad when he's like winning.
That's probably what it is, to be honest. But it completely baffles me. But that said, I am. You know how in the last year or so, Courtney Lawes has come into just the form of his life more than he ever has before. I am so pleased that is coming on at this moment, because I've been so impressed by him. He's had a couple of fumbles, but I think he is playing so much better than the player he used to be, and I'm thrilled that it's coming at a time where, granted, we still have just stupid amounts of depth there.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go on I'm trying to think. Who out of the players then, of the team playing against the Crusaders on Saturday, let's see who they are. To start, do you think any of the players who are getting their first start will have a
impact on 2019?
No, have an impact on just the tour in general.
Oh.
Because we've got about half a dozen players who haven't had their start yet, who will be against the Crusaders, with the likes of Omani, O'Brien, Murray, Farrell, Jamie. I've got to say,
I still think, and I know Moriarty, Falatau, Warburton, and I think Omani didn't have a great game. I think Sean O'Brien has a chance if he really stands out.
I'm so on the edge about him, because I think he can be an amazing player. But the last few memories I have of him are of the Six Nations.
Yeah.
And I don't remember him being particularly good then. I just remember him doing a lot of screaming like a girl at rucks, but not a lot of actual carrying or much impact.
Mm-hmm.
And so I hope he does something amazing. I hope he carries it for us. But I think he's one of the players I'm not entirely sure how much he deserved his place. That might be a bit harsh. Especially over someone like Hamish Watson, who I thought had an absolutely fantastic Six Nations, and who, by all accounts, has had an absolutely fantastic domestic season.
Well, I certainly think that 4 Welsh back row players is excessive.
Moriarty, I think, was...
And even if it's just in the name of getting his name, Watson in there, I'm not saying that none of them don't deserve to be there. I said this in the last podcast. But just what Hamish Watson deserved to travel.
Yeah.
The way he's played in the Pro 12 and the way he played for Scotland, he is he's a game-winning player, and he'll stand up and win games. So to not have him travel is to kind of say, we're not going to reward form, we're going to go with combinations purely, and that's not really what the Lions is about. You're going to make the combinations later. You can be smart about it, but for Welsh back row, it's a bit too much.
I mean, that said, I have been quite impressed by Moriarty.
Moriarty's been brilliant. Faletau's been brilliant. Warburton is decent. And Tipperick is Tipperick. He didn't really stand out or do much special, but he's all right. I'm not saying they're not good. They are good. It's just I would have loved Hamish Watson to go.
I am genuinely... I'm so excited about just the entire back line in general, but I think the midfield axis is kind of getting me properly excited. To see Farrell play outside Murray and to see Davies play, or Davis rather, I've never been particularly fond of Davis. I will always love the try he scored against Ireland in 2012 off George North's Jonah moment. But from what I've been reading on the sub, the form he's come into, I'm actually incredibly excited to see how he turns out against the Crusaders. So it's granted there is that English axis in there at the 10-12 with Farrell and Teo.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think Murray and Davis I think are two there that kind of... Maybe it's just because they're less of a known quantity to me than the others. But it's... I don't know. Whatever the case, I'm intrigued and excited in equal measure.
All right. I mean, I'm also pretty hyped. I'm looking forward to Saturday. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I don't know if this will be up in time for everybody to listen to, but get hyped for this Lions tour because we definitely are.
Yeah.
And tune in and just watch everything.
I think,
read my extra novel. It's coming out.
When it comes out.
I'm going to post it tomorrow, hopefully.
One thing worth asking.
Go on.
Is there any chance of us at any point on this tour doing a live commentary?
Oh, Jesus.
I think it would be interesting.
There's no Tuesday games, are there?
Yeah, there is.
There are Tuesday game, right?
Yeah.
On one of the Tuesday games we can because
it's coming up this Tuesday. In fact, I can't remember. I think is it the Hurricanes or the Chiefs?
I have the day off, so
or the Highlanders.
Let's do it then. Unless I get the call, that means I have to go in.
Yeah.
Let's do a Tuesday commentary. So if you're listening to this at some point of the weekend on Monday, I don't know how we'll probably do it live on YouTube. So if you're not on YouTube, if you're on just the podcast, just go on Linebreak Rugby on YouTube and listen up. 13th of June, we're going to do live commentary. Me and Ed and
Hooray.
It's done. That's
Can't wait.
That's set in stone now. Sorry.
Yeah. Because I think
it's going to be
the last time we did it.
I'm going to have to find myself a stream, I suppose, aren't I?
Yeah, I think the last time we did live commentary was for the Rugby Championship before the last World Cup.
Oh no, I've got to sort out OBS. Okay, there's some stuff I need to sort out to get that right, but we can do it. We can do it. It's perfectly possible. I'm just going to fix it out.
Fair enough.
Right. Okay, we got to sign off.
Yeah, that'll do it.
This has been Linebreak Rugby. The music's playing, right?
Is it?
Yeah.
Can't wait. I love that music. Do or whatever.
Good. And I'm really... Wow, we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this on Tuesday, but we'll see what happens. Now that you've just brought that up.
Sweet.
I'm hyped. Right, I think that'll be it. Shall we cut that?